Hey guys, this is Maria Park and welcome to Approach the Nerd. It is a live stream Wednesday, which is very rare. I normally work on Wednesdays and I don't today. So I get to talk about Nancy Drew, which is something I've been meaning to actually continue reviewing. But I've had so many videos and with my work, it's been really tough. So I decided to do a kind of like, not really recap, but my thoughts on season 2 Nancy Drew live stream. And I'm pretty sure that there is a lot to discuss. But first, I want a disclaimer. I will be posting in my Black Lightning video, if not today, tomorrow. So it is still coming because I know I got a message about it. It's coming. And hopefully this Thursday or Friday, not locked in stone, but potentially me and the Turnout are going to be doing a Charmed season, 2, finale, which is really season 3, episode 3, in-depth talk as a live stream as well. So we're going to try and work that out. And I will post on the community board exactly when or if that happens. So it's coming, guys. All right. So Nancy Drew. I'm not going to talk about episode 1 of season 2, the Bobbsey twins, the Wraith, all that stuff, because I did a review on that. If you haven't seen it, it's in the playlist. But let's jump into everything that's happening with the characters, the Aglaika, and hopefully have some theories on what's going to happen. So let's start with what we learned about the Aglaika, outside of the fact that she's trying to kill the, Scooby Drew crew. The Aglaika is a woman named Odette Lamar. She was like this French businesswoman, an heiress who made her fortune sending her family's money and making an olive oil company, which I think is pretty cool. Back in those times, women weren't really bosses. They didn't really have power. If a man died, you didn't get to, leave your wealth to your daughter. So the fact that she made something out of this and made herself, successful and had money is really impressive. But she decides to come to America. And that's where she has the misfortune of meeting not only Bess's great whatever grandfather, Captain Marvin, but also Reverend Hudson, who is basically Nancy's great, because we learned that Ryan Hudson is her bio dad and Lucy Sable is her bio mom. So we learned all this at the season finale of season 1. So now we're into season 2, and it's kind of carrying on to that. And we'll get into that in a minute. But so basically, Captain Marvin and Reverend Hudson are like, you know what? This woman's rich. We want her money. So they shaved her head and they basically threw her overboard to drown and forged a marriage certificate and took all her money. And that's how they founded, Horseshoe Bay on blood money and told everyone that they had the Captain Marvin and her had a whirlwind romance and that, they got married. They just couldn't keep their hands off each other. And, she ended up dying from consumption or TB back then. Horrible. Horrible. And then come to find out, Captain Marvin marries again a woman named Agnes, very smart and brilliant woman who, there's a actual portrait of Odette wearing this red ruby necklace, and he gives the necklace to his next wife, who he also locks away and tells people that she's crazy. I mean, it's a pattern. This guy really is like a sociopath. But yeah, so it was not good to be a woman in Horseshoe Bay. Let's put it that way. So instead of, pretty much Odette just dying, she basically gives up her human form and becomes basically a sea demon, a sea urchin, whatever. And you have to pay a toll whenever she does something for you. So it's, it's a very interesting curse that they're under. It reminds me of The Rings, because whenever they say 7 days, I'm just like, oh, she gonna pop out of the TV. This is some bullshit. Hi, Regina. Welcome to the stream. But yeah, so our gang is trying to figure out how not to die. So season 1, they had 7 days. We're I'm talking 2 through 4 now, and we're at 3 days now. And tonight is I'm hoping resolution episode of the Aglaika, because there is a lot to this. And they've tried all kinds of things to appease her. They've tried to offer, Nancy's mother's bones back to her. She didn't want them. She spat them back up. They went to look for her. They had this ballad, that she plays, or the dead would play. And they thought if they could just find this lone, I think it was called the Lone 47, and just figure out the lyrics, it would tell, the gang how to defeat her. But it didn't. But it basically told Odette's story. And that's how we know more about, what happened to Odette. So it's, it is a thing, guys. All right. So I guess we need to talk about something that I think is interesting. So this kind of, my thoughts are not going to be specific to 2, 3, and 4 per se, meaning I'm not going to recap them in order. I'm just going to throw stuff out that I thought was insane. So Nancy has spent a lot of time in the premiere of season 2 trying to convince others that she was not a Hudson, like when she even tries to sacrifice herself to the Wraith to try and save her friends. Very noble. She has this capability. It's awesome. But she does something in, I believe it was episode 3, that just boggles my mind. So remember I told you they're trying to find a way out of the Igleka killing them. So there is a writer named AJ Crane, and his real name, and I think I have it written in my notes because I always forget his real name. It's Kitsune, AJ Kitsune. So he is a surviving member of the original group who, right prior to them, I think it was in 1975, had summoned the Igleka because they were partying, and they ended up getting into a hit and run. Well, they hit this family and they ended up killing the parents, and the car, I guess, was set on fire and their daughter was burned. And the daughter turns out to be Hannah, the lady that's helping them research stuff at the museum. But every member was killed. And we see them through episodes 2 and 3. And actually, we've seen a little bit of them in season 2. I'll get to that in a second. But AJ is like also a famous horror writer that Bess really, really likes. So he's hiding out in a cabin in the woods because, why not? And so Nancy and Carson, who she's still technically not talking to, they go to visit AJ because they find out that AJ had a connection to Carson. And Carson says, yeah, I was actually his lawyer back in the day. He's very, very reclusive. They get there, Nancy's trying to figure out how he's still alive and the Igleka didn't kill him. He's got like this talisman, on the outside door, on the porch area, hanging from, top of the shingle or whatever. So she walks in and, she's, obviously not getting any answers on why, he's still alive. He acts like he's having a nervous breakdown. He tells him to get out of the house. Well, as she's leaving, Nancy grabs this talisman and takes it. And she even says later in the episode, I thought maybe this repelled the Igleka. And I kept thinking to myself, you mean to tell me you don't want anyone to think that you have the same kind of murderous, I don't care about you tendencies as the Hudsons, but you willingly took this talisman that may have been keeping this guy alive since 1975. That to me was weird. That was a little weird to me. I kind of got a little put off on Nancy just because she was capable of doing that. So that was an issue. It's just small things. I know she's angry about, Carson lying to her, and about, her not having her mother being murdered, and about, just who her dad is and being connected to the Hudsons in general. I mean, all that's crazy. So she's very angry, and she's a lot more snippy at people, and she gets angry a lot easier, which again, she's still dealing with this crap, but she's really not had time to deal with it because she's trying to stay alive. So I get that. But I mean, you almost killed this guy, you didn't know what would happen. You just didn't know. You just took it to save you and your friends. And I just thought that was kind of messed up. So that's where I am with that. So this is kind of, the show itself is really good, but the characters are going through some crap and it's making them very unlikable. Let's talk about Bess. So remember last season, Bess is so happy to be with the Marvins and her aunt is just horrible. And she was with Lizabeth. I loved Bess and I love Lizabeth together. I thought they were very cute. And I kind of felt like Bess needed somebody like Lizabeth who, she's a cop, she's stable, she's smart, she's down to earth, she doesn't care about money. But unfortunately, Bess is still trying to find herself, and she's been looking for the Marvins for so long that she's kind of letting herself, even though she knows it's wrong, she's letting herself kind of drink the Kool-Aid a little bit, which I hope doesn't play out a lot in this season. But I was kind of put off when we didn't hear anything about Lizabeth in the first 3 episodes of the season, not one mention, especially if you're going to die. So we finally did get Lizabeth in the last episode, and she invited Bess to try and save the relationship, basically, or because she said, I missed you, I love you, I want you to meet my parents. And Bess said yes. And when she said that, I already knew something was going to happen. I already knew. I was like, oh, this is going to mess everything up. And true to form, because of all the stuff with the Agleka and her thinking that they're going to die, she basically says, well, she goes there. She does go to meet her, and she stares at Elizabeth and the parents through the window of the restaurant. And then she turns around and walks away. And I was so mad. Oh, I was so mad. Oh my gosh. I'm like, really? So yeah, that to me, the whole Bess and Elizabeth thing in this season is bothering me. And I'm really hoping that this is not the last we see of Elizabeth, because that's crazy if it is. Again, I don't know what's going to happen in the episode tonight. I'm trying to play catch up. So this is what we're doing. But as of right now, Maria is not happy with the situation. And then we have George and Nick, who I love Nick. I love that we got to meet Nick's mother. I love that Nick's mother was so down with the fact that a ghost was trying to kill her son. I mean, it was like, she's like, yeah, I believe it. That's why I bring my Bible everywhere. But yeah, the mother, she made some really good points. Like when she first got to town, Regina, I'm not sure if Bess's mother is dead. I think she is, and I think that's why she left England and came to look for the Marvins, because she didn't have any other family. I'll have to go back and relook at season 1. I'm pretty sure she is, but don't quote me on that. But yeah, as for Nick's mother, she was always the like level-headed mother that was like, I know my son is black. I live in Miami. I don't want my son to be like some of the other kids to get shot in the street just for being black. So she took it very hard when her son ended up going to jail for, basically pushing the guy out the window. I believe he pushed him out the window when he was trying to date rape his friend. And she just saw another black guy getting arrested by the cops. And then apparently something happens with a family friend where a guy that Nick grew up with, our new, gets gunned down, and the cops call it a drug related incident. And Nick's mother's like, basically that's full of crap. And so she comes to, basically to Horseshoe Bay to try and convince Nick to come back home. Now, remember, Nick has all this money now. He just, he's part owner of the Claw. He's not going anywhere. But it is very interesting, the meeting between George and Millie, because, as a parent, I would like to think that I wouldn't be that way. Actually, with my daughter's partner, I am not that way. But it's interesting because I will say their first meeting, which George didn't even realize what's happening, is when Millie's mother accidentally almost hits George with her car, or her rental car. And, George starts going off, and then she happens to just meet Mama, in the cafe. I'm like, yeah, that was pretty rough. But I loved by the end of the episode that she was teaching George how to make Nick's favorite, which was chicken dumplings. So I thought that was very cool. But yeah, the whole relationship thing with Mitt, and the fact that nobody blinks an eye anymore about ghosts just walking around town is amazing to me. Like, nobody seems to care that this town is overrun with the supernatural. But I guess that's why we like the show. So it is what it is. I also love what they're doing with other characters. I love we're learning more about Ace. I love that we're learning, I didn't even realize that he was Jewish. I didn't realize his dad was Jewish. It's interesting. I also love the fact that Ryan is kind of doing like a little redemption thing now that he realized that Nancy is his daughter. Like, he's bailed her out a lot in this season so far. He even bought her the music box. They needed a music box, or they basically this music box that's supposed to like attract, the Agleka to capture her. And he spent a lot of money getting it out of, the museum. And unfortunately, it's all smashed to bits. So we'll see how he reacts to that. But because I'm pretty sure the recovery on that's going to be a mess. But yeah, he's trying very hard. Like, he even was buying Patrice groceries. I mean, anytime Nancy's like in trouble, he bails her out. I mean, he's pretty much like Carson's role. So he is experiencing fatherhood without having been there all those years, which I think is interesting. And I actually like that that's happening. It's giving him more depth. It's making him more human, because honestly, season 1, he just seemed like a creeper to me. He was a murder suspect. I mean, we didn't know if he killed Lucy or not. He had an affair with George, who is very underage. Just not an all-around good guy. But now he seems to be trying, like Nancy, to separate himself from the Hudson name as much as possible. So I am really down with that. But yeah, the whole Nancy and Carson thing is still, yeah. I mean, I get it. This man raised you and lied to you like for what, 18, 19 years? never told you that he wasn't really your dad. You grieved your mother, who really wasn't your mother. And I'm probably for Nancy, even though, Lucy Sable is her bio mom, she still, is going to grieve her mother, especially since her mother died of pancreatic cancer, adopted mother or not. You can't really, it's hard. As somebody who lost their mother to cancer, you can't be mad at the dead that way, no matter what kind of, it's hard to be mad at the dead that way when you lose them so tragically. So I don't think that's going to be an issue, but I think Carson's going to get the brunt of all of that because he knew and he didn't tell her. And I get it. Nancy does not like being lied to, even though she kind of does it. I'm like, and I think it's interesting too. Back to her, when I said she's like being snippy and getting angry. I will say she handled the George and Nick getting together thing very well because they didn't want to tell her. And I kind of get it because, again, she's dealing with all this other crap. And of course, their impending death or doom. But it's not like she didn't see the signs. I mean, Nancy's very observant. There's no way she couldn't have seen the signs of them, since really paying attention in episode 1, season 2. And we do know that she's going to end up getting with Gil later. So it doesn't matter. That is going to be her new love interest. So you can't have a love interest if the Glaika kills you. So I am pretty darn sure none of them are going to die. So this whole thing is not really going to go the way we're supposed to believe it's going to go. They're not going to die. They have main character insurance, but just for dramatic sake, George and Nick, like the whole thing where it looked like Nancy was trying to rekindle a little bit of stuff with Nick, and he valiantly said, he basically made it known he's really not interested. And then him grabbing George's hand, I just thought that was pretty cool. It sucks for Nancy to walk in on them in her house, but I don't know what to say about that. So anyway, but yeah, that's another thing. Nick has been staying at Nancy's place too. So even though he can afford to buy any house in Horseshoe Bay, which is very interesting. Now we did face a little bit of racism there. I had to go look for the name. I took the notes of this guy. His name was Jonathan, but I always forget his last name. He is a ghost. If you remember last season, there was a party at the Marvins, and there was this guy who actually asked Nick to get him a drink. And his name, I'm trying to find it. It was Jonathan, because I usually try and take notes by my live stream because I want to make sure I'm accurate. But I'm trying to see if I can find his name. I am not finding it, even though I take very good notes. What is wrong with me today? I'm calling him Jonathan. I know his name is Jonathan. He's actually one of AJ's friends who was killed by, I think, a semi-truck hit him in 1975. Like, all of them died. Even there was a woman who applied for a job to work in the cafe, and her name, I think, was something like Rita, and she's also one of them. So she was a ghost. And this gentleman basically was mistaking Nick for this black bartender. I think the bartender's name was Buddy, which is kind of racist, actually, if you think about it. It's like, I guess for him, it was 1975. I guess for him, all of black men look alike. I don't know. But turns out he was one of the ones that, the Glaika killed. He was one of the ones that killed the parents and made the deal with the Glaika to save the girl's life. But they couldn't pay the toll, so they had to die. And that whole thing, that whole situation was interesting. That Nick became like only because he was black was he put in like the most danger in that episode. I thought that was very interesting. And again, it did bring out some really funny scenes. Like, I really love the fact that Millie was like, "Okay, this ghost is trying to take out my son. What do we do?" Like, no hesitation, no disbelief, no moment to process. She was like, "Hell yeah, I believe in ghosts." So I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, there's so much going on in this show, guys. There's just so much going on in this show. But they did find, I think it's called the Lone 47. It's like the record. It was hidden in this jukebox. And this basically told the story of Odette, but they thought it was actually going to tell the story of how to defeat her. And it didn't. So right now, they don't really know how to 100% defeat her. The one chance they had, which was this blessed box that, Ryan got for Nancy, the Glaika, looked at it, turned human, looked in the mirror, and then destroyed the box. And so now I think at this point they have 1 day left as of tonight. I think this is their last shot at saving their lives. And again, it's just like watching The Ring, guys. Just like watching The Ring. With Ryan, they basically thought if you gave back or undid, what you asked for instead of paying the toll and just returned, didn't take what you asked, that maybe that would satisfy or appease the Agleka. So of course, AJ went to go kill Hannah, who was the young girl in the car crash. But of course, Nancy talks him out of it, and then he gets impaled in the street, which is crazy because Beth said that's exactly what he wrote in his last book, how he died. And then that's insane. So now how they're going to get out of this, that is a good question. I mean, maybe they need to find her original body, like her actual bones. But how do you do that when you're buried at sea, basically? Maybe they have to make right. Maybe they need to find a descendant of the lady from London that she was in love with and was writing love letters to, and send those letters off to her and say, hey, can you come talk to your woman because she's trying to kill us? Or at least a descendant of your woman. This is going to be good. Like I am really excited. And like I said, everything that's going to happen after this has me excited. I'm hoping we get back to, I can't say normalcy, because really, does Nancy Drew have normalcy? There's always something insane going on in that series. There's always Easter eggs. There's always, things that are pertaining to the books that they've kind of taken and rewarped, like the Bobbsey twins. But I really, really want to know how they're going to get out of this. I love, though, that Nancy, especially at the time of social media when everybody has their phones out, told the real story of Odette to that tour guide that was trying to explain to her, talk to her like she was stupid, about, the Odette and the whole her backstory about how she died of consumption. And she's like, oh no, she was murdered by Captain Marvin. And she just goes by this whole thing. And all the people on the tour just turn around looking at Nancy and videotape or recording her on their phones. I thought that was interesting. So I'm hoping that is going to be how they are redeemed, by actually getting Odette's story out there and getting people to understand that Captain Marvin and Reverend Hudson were the ones that killed her. Now, if that happens, what repercussions will that have on the Hudsons and the Marvins, the two evil, powerful families of Horseshoe Bay? And then also it makes me question, will Bess be able to still be, loyal to the Marvins, knowing the family fortune came from murdering a woman? This opens the door to a lot of crap. It really does. I'm also hoping that we see Nancy deal with her stuff. I loved her burying Lucy with both Carson and Ryan. I thought that was a great start and a new beginning. And, basically burying her in the area that Lucy really loved to go to was, very poetic, very sweet. But what does this mean for them now? Because I know Ryan definitely wants to be in Nancy's life. And Carson has no intention of leaving Nancy's life. So she's got two dads now. So I don't know what's going to happen with that. But again, I go back to AJ, her taking that talisman. It just blew my mind, because she had no idea if that was going to get him killed or not. And she did it anyway. She did it knowingly. It wasn't like, oh, what's this? Let me go take it and see what it does. Oh, crap. This is a talisman that may be keeping the Agleka from killing him. No, she took it thinking it would help her and her friends, knowing that, if she took this, then the person that had it would no longer be protected, which potentially could get them killed. I have issues with that. I have issues. That is the one time I really feel like she showed herself being a Hudson. So yeah. Let me see. Let me move up. I see we got some stuff going. All the old rich families on the show are a-holes. J Swiss, yes, they are. It really feels that way. It feels like every time, literally every time there is a very old, established, rich family, they got their money in some treacherous or low down or crazy way, and they do very horrible things to keep it. I don't know why that is. I really don't. I kind of feel like maybe, I mean, there's always that one family member that is kind of redeeming. It's usually one or two that are redeeming, and they're not anything like their family, but then they suffer the most in these dramas. So I don't know. But yeah, I agree with you 100%. They are all a-holes. They're just a-holes. It is what it is. Let's see. Is Bess's mother dead? I think I already answered that. And yes, Regina, I do think Bess's mother died, and that's when she left and came to find the Marvins because she didn't have any family, and her mother always told her stories about the Marvins. But then Bess should have thought there's a reason your mother stayed away from the Marvins. It's because the Marvins are crazy. That's why. Like even looking at last season, the stuff the aunt was making her do, like making her, basically talk to this lady about a business deal on the golf court, potentially whoring her out to get her to agree to some business deal. And it's like, she was prostituting you, Bess, and you were okay with this. And I don't understand why. And you are really happy in this new relationship that you are sacrificing for this woman who was just evil lady. She's evil. She talks like she literally has all of the cousins competing, with each other. And is like, you didn't give me green tea when I wanted it. Oh, that party you gave me, where were my cupcakes? Okay, you are now a failure of the family. Who wants to live like that? That is so crazy. I really feel sorry for Bess because yes, she was living out of a van. Now she's living in a mansion and has all these wonderful rich clothes. But that's all you have. You have material crap. You don't have a family because these people are crazy. Crazy. So I am very curious to see what happens with Bess and the Marvins going forward. And I'm really hoping she did not screw things up with Elizabeth for good because I love Elizabeth. I love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love that relationship. I'm not just saying that because I'm queer. I'm saying because Bess just needs somebody. And yes, Regina, Cruella de Vil. Absolutely. I also I need Ace to have interests outside of hacking and basically doing things for Nancy. I know that if you saw episode 1, Ace seems very tired of being dragged into all of the Hudson shit. I mean, that's basically what I got from all of that. He doesn't hate Nancy. This is not a, oh, Nancy, you're pissing me off scenario. It's more like, I don't have time for my own life because I'm always worried about dying because of crap that you're making us do. And he's not wrong. And I feel really bad for him on that. So yeah, it's a crazy thing. What's the best Nancy Drew comic to start with? Well, the books that I read are older. I like the Palace of Wisdom. That's Kelly Thompson. There's tons though. I mean, I even think if you have a Comixology account, or even Amazon Prime with the Kindle, you can get a bunch of like free Nancy Drew stuff, or they used to. They kind of rotate what's free and what's not. But I would search for it and just kind of look around. I mean, the comic series in general are good. Let me see. I think there was one that my daughter was reading. It's a graphic novel. Yeah, it's Nancy Drew, Girl Detective issues 1 through 8. And it is on Amazon. Trying to see if I can help you out a little bit. So they have the paperback for $3.51. That's not a bad price actually. But the series is called Global Warming. And it's by Stefan Perchucha. So I'll try and link some stuff below when this posts, because whenever I do a live stream through StreamYard, it posts later. So I'll try and update you with some of that stuff. But yeah, they have a lot of cool book series. You can read the original book series. I mean, they've been around for a long time. Though Nancy Drew and the Hardy Boys were like stuff I used to read in high school, and I'm in my 40s. So that should tell you how long these books have been around. But yeah, they have a lot of cool graphic novels that you really, now, if you're trying to see, if you're trying to find a book that's going to be in comparison to this, I mean, yeah, the Global Warming series, some of the other series are probably good, but the CW, this is their own creation, because Nancy Drew is normally like a kid-friendly, Leave It to Beaver with mystery type wholesome book series. So yeah, I kind of think that you'd be better off reading adaptations of the CW version, kind of like they did with the Vampire Diaries. If you ever watched the Vampire Diaries series on the CW, L.J. Smith wrote that series before a ghostwriter took over, and it is very different. I mean, there's some elements that are similar, but the book series is very, very different from the Vampire Diaries TV show. And I read the Vampire Diaries when I was the 10th grade. That and The Secret Circle, and like The Night World, all of that. All of these shows that I think The Secret Circle got canceled after the first season, I believe. But all of these were L.J. Smith books. But drastically different from the TV show I mean, even Elena doesn't look the same. Like, actually, Caroline was actually more of how Elena is described as blonde with blue eyes, very popular. She, is completely different. She had a sister and not a brother in the book. So it's completely different. I guess one day I need to do a Vampire Diaries book versus TV show comparison, because it is very, very different than the book series. Same with Roswell. Roswell, New Mexico is a little bit closer in terms of Liz, because Liz Ortego was her actual name in the original Roswell books. But they changed it to Liz Parker in the first TV series, and they made her white instead of Hispanic. So that's why it was always funny to me when CW said that they were doing Roswell, New Mexico, and people were like, oh my God, they made Liz, Mexican. And I'm like, she always was. I'm like, Roswell, New Mexico. I'm like, come on, people. Was not an agenda. I hate that word. It actually was based closer to the book. So now none of the other characters technically are, I guess book accurate. But, Michael's actors both have come close to how he's described. Except actually he's supposed to have like black spiky hair. But, it is what it is. I mean, I could settle for like the sandy brown or dirty brown hair that they usually end up with. Both Michaels and both Roswell series were cool. Both Marias are cool. Neither of them were accurate. Maria had curly blonde hair. She did not have, she had really curly blonde hair and was kind of mousy and short. So yeah, learning some stuff, guys. But yeah, so what did you guys think? I want Ace to be a Hardy boy. That would be cool. He's smart enough. He definitely is. I could see him getting into some crap, like when he went to get the skull out of the police station, to try and, get more, basically try to get more clues on how to defeat the Glacier. He is very smooth on how he does things. But I mean, his dad's a cop, so you expect him to know a little bit of something. And he's very, very good with computers. So I just want to know if he's going to get a love interest. I don't want Ace and Bess to hook up and become a couple, because I always think that'll annoy me, because it's just like lazy to me. It's lazy to me. It's like, they need to have outside relationships from within their group. George and Nick are fine, because George and Nick are, to me, similar and opposite at the same time. They both come from very different families. They both have gone through very different but really messed up situations, so they can relate to each other. So I like them together. Bess and Ace would just be boring. They'd be funny, but boring to me. And it's kind of like in Scooby-Doo, like with Daphne and Fred. Yeah, Daphne and Fred would get together, but they weren't the most exciting couple, So it would be weird to me. I bought all the Roswell High audiobooks. They are good. Roswell High books are very, very good. So yeah, I was really down. I liked the original TV show. I mean, yeah, it was very different from the book series, especially later in the seasons, because there was no test or any of that. There was a test, but it wasn't the test that they had in the show. She didn't have that type of role. And they always morph characters. Even in New Mexico, they're doing it with Cameron, I forgot what Cameron's first name is. Basically Max's ex-cop deputy when he was a deputy. So there's a character named Cameron in the actual book series, but she was actually the test role in the first series. So she came in to kind of start crap within the group, and Michael's the one that falls in love with her and starts all this crap. So it's a lot different than the TV show, and they always do that. But again, the CW verse, that's what I call everything, not just the comic book verse, does its own thing, which is why Nancy is so dark. It's kind of like a crossover between Buffy and the Sabrina show on Netflix to me. And I think it's very cool how they're doing it. I love that nobody cares that there are ghosts walking around. It's like literally, because you be sitting here doing your homework, there's a ghost like sitting at a table, like, meh, and they just keep going. And it's like, okay, that's how normal it is in Horseshoe Bay now to see ghosts. It's really funny to me. Hi, how are you? Jedalorian Revon. Did I say your name right? Jedalorian Revan. I like it. Can't say it. I butcher names all the time, guys. Just deal with it. I'm sorry. I'm old. But yeah, I think also going forward, I know we're going to have a lot of the Bobbsey twins. And if I remember correctly, it's been a long time since I've read these books, and I don't even think I've read most of the stuff the Bobbsey twins were in, but I do know that there were two sets. I thought there was a fraternal set of twins and then identical twins. And these are the fraternal twins, which Gil seems to be, I think it's Gil and Amanda. I think her name is Amanda. I have to go back and look again. But Gil is, and they're they're both very opposite to the, very well behaved, never gets in trouble, but still manages to solve crime. And it's kind of like watching Power Rangers, the original the original Power Rangers, where they would go to school all day, but they'd only fight after school so they wouldn't have to miss their tests or whatever, because Rita was very considerate. It's kind of like that. But like these twins in the CW land, like they've already had a rap sheet. So it's like completely different. You said it right. The all DC universe thing confuses me so. Yeah, I didn't want to turn my Nancy Drew into a whole Arrowverse, CW verse. I don't know what we're calling it anymore. I really don't. I'm just upset that Black Lightning is going away. That this is the last season of Black Lightning, and I'm very upset with what's happening with Black Lightning. And I am going to have my video on that done. I was watching it last night and I was like, Lordy, and I'm like, what is happening in Freeland? I'm tired. But as for the Flash and the Mirrorverse saga, I might review. I've never really reviewed the Flash. I've read the Flash comics. Because the Flash is always so all over the place for me that it just sometimes gets on my nerves. I like Barry and Iris. I think they're cute. I don't like Caitlin. I don't care about the actress. This is not I hate Danielle Panabaker thing. I just don't like Caitlin. I don't like her. She's just always there. And I don't know why. It's like they don't know what to do with her sometimes. So they just put her in everything. And it just bothers me. And I'll get hate for saying that because, haters. But I just don't. I like Cisco. Camilla's cool. There's different, I like all of the other characters. It's just trying to find what to do with this cast, especially after they had to get rid of Ralph's actor. They don't know how to fill that void. I don't know what they're going to do. So right now we're trying to get Iris out of the damn mirror. That's what we're doing. Everything that happened in Crisis is non-consequential anymore because it doesn't apply to anything. Every Justice League member that they actually established at the end of Crisis is gone, except for Barry. Really, I want to say Barry might be the last man standing. Let's see, because Black Lightning's leaving, Supergirl's leaving, Kate Kane is gone as Batwoman. So those are already 3 members. I guess the Flash is the last man standing in that. Well, and Sarah. And if Legends of Tomorrow goes, then we don't even have that. So, I don't know. Sorry about the sirens, guys. It snowed a lot. So a lot of people are having accidents because I live in Memphis, Tennessee. And we don't put masks on and we don't care about people during a pandemic. But when the snow falls, we shut the whole city down. So stupid. But yeah, I just find all of that crazy. Like everything with Crisis on Infinite Earths made 0 sense. Bebo should have been like the main villain because the Anti-Monitor was no threat whatsoever. I could take him out with a shotgun. That's what it proved to me anyway. All of it. It was pointless, completely pointless. So where do we go from here? I don't know. I like Stargirl. I love Black Lightning and it's going away. I like aspects of the Flash. I don't know how I feel about Superman and Lois yet. I know it's coming. I like the trailer. I love the HBO Max, or HBO is spending so much money to give them an HBO Max budget. So it looks really good. Will I like the storyline? I don't know yet. I do find it interesting that outside of the old movies, Lana Lang, who is traditionally a redhead, never has red hair anywhere else. like CW, every version of Lana has dark brown or black hair. Even this version, Lana has dark, hair. In these Man of Steel movies, the DCEU, they cast a girl in the flashbacks when Clark was young. She had dark hair. It's like they hate having red hair, but then they made Lois a strawberry blonde. So I guess, that was a whole other conversation. So yeah, I just think it's funny. I think all of it's funny. I wonder how all of this is going to tie in, if any, with the DCEU, since we did have, the DCU version of The Flash in technically Crisis on Infinite Poop. Okay, I gotta say it that way, guys, because it just sucked. But that was a cool having Ezra Miller with Grant Gustin both talking about Flashpoint, only Ezra Miller hasn't had Flashpoint yet. That was very cool. Now, if we are talking about comic stuff, because then we were talking about Nancy, if I am kind of segueing, because I have been known to do this in a live stream and I apologize, but if we're talking about this, I did see the Zack Snyder Justice League trailer for the trailer cut or the Snyder cut, the episodes on HBO Max. I love them so far, but it's interesting to me that the girl they cast, and her name just went right out of my head. I know, is it Kiersey Clemons? I think that's right, Kiersey Clemons. They cast her as Iris West, but I heard that she was being recast. So I guess my question is, why keep the scene where Barry saves Iris in the Snyder cut if you're not going to use her in the Flashpoint movie? I guess I'm really confused about that. I want somebody to explain why they did that. But the trailer itself, all the extra footage looks amazing. I mean, it looks amazing. So I am excited. I'm excited for what we did see, and I'm excited to see an expanse of what we didn't see. And honestly, even with Jared Leto's Joker monologue at the end, it wasn't bad. So we'll see. We will see. I mean, I think it'll be pretty good. Regina, I love Smallville. And then right below you, Jenna Lorian says, I hated Smallville. What a letdown. Now, I will say this. I didn't hate Smallville. I didn't like aspects of the beginning because they kind of dragged out his origin story. But I will say, once they got more of the comic writers involved and started getting more input from DC, when they were going from Smallville to Metropolis, which still kind of never made sense to me because Metropolis was supposed to be in New York and Smallville is in Kansas. So the fact that they were able to drive in like one day was really confusing, but whatever, unless they moved Metropolis to Kansas. I don't know. Maybe it was downtown Kansas now. I don't know. But I will say though, when they were at the Daily Planet, those episodes were kick ass. I mean, we got to see Legion, we actually, Legion had Stargirl, had Hawkman, had, Dr. Fate, had all of the people that we were used to in the comics. Plus, we got, our own Justice. We had our Justice Society of America. Sorry, that's where Stargirl and them were. We had Legion. Then we had Martian Manhunter. Like we had all of them. We saw Zatanna. We saw the Wonder Twins. We had all of these like live action versions of these heroes that we would have never effing had we not had Smallville. And had we not had Smallville, we would not have had the very first Spider-Man movie because they didn't want to take a risk on a comic book movie. They've been trying to push Spider-Man for years, but when they saw that Smallville, how it was getting, renewed season after season after season, Marvel said, hey, why don't we try and put one of our characters on the screen? And that is how we got Spider-Man to begin with. So Smallville, not only started the Arrowverse, it started the MCU. And I'll go to the grave fighting over that one because that is true. Even Sam Raimi said if they didn't have shows like that Smallville that were successful, they would have never had a chance to make, any Marvel movies. So I got to give props where props are due. I do. And I think Tom Welling was very good. He was very, very good as Clark Kent. And I loved Erica Durance as Lois. So yeah, Smallville Crisis on Infinite Earth was better than the Arrowverse Crisis on Infinite Earth. Yeah, I just was so angry that he gave his powers up to have kids, only because if you remember the prophecy in Smallville, they talked about one day, Jor-El even said this in the Fortress of Solitude. He said, one day your greatest rival will have so much power, he will take over the earth. He's talking about Lex. Lex becomes the president and you have no power. So then who's going to stop him? You know what I mean? It's like, wow. Blade's technically started the MCU, but they don't think that it started the MCU. They think Spider-Man, because if you actually look at all of the interviews and what everybody says, Blade was considered its own inception. Now, the new Blade is what they're saying is the MCU Blade, the one that they're writing right now. That is going to be the new MCU. But Blade technically did not start the MCU because we've had a few others. We had, look at the Fantastic Four. A lot of people like to claim that the original Fantastic Four movies, well, I won't say original because those ones in the 80s were funny, but the ones with Jessica Alba and crew were that was the first official MCU movie. I don't think so. I'm sorry. I don't believe that at all. I feel like they are their own things. I think they didn't have a plan and it wasn't until they actually had the plan that the MCU was created. But this whole Spider-Verse thing that we may be getting in Spider-Man 3, yeah, tying in Andrew Garfield, and of course, I will leave Elijah alone. But I think that all of Tobey Maguire and everybody involved in this is going to be amazing. Though, if WandaVision is anything to go by, it's going to be a mess. It's going to be a good mess. It's not going to be like a Crisis CW mess. It's going to be a good mess, but it's going to be a mess. It is going to be a mess. I have so many theories, guys. I have my House of M theories, but my modified House of M, because what if, and if you have watched my WandaVision theory videos, or I guess episode reviews / theory videos, you will know that I believe that instead of Wanda saying no more mutants, she's going to say no more like magic, and that Doctor Strange is going to lose his magic ability, because there's a comic series where he just travels all over the galaxy in one of Stark's ships, and he goes everywhere, including the Utopian parallel where we meet America Chavez's mothers. And America Chavez would be a child at this point. Well, technically, I think she died. I think they sacrificed themselves when she was like 5 or 6. And the girl they cast, I think, is like 13 or 14, but they can mess with the timeline. But yeah, he goes around from world and universe everywhere and just says, end quote, I want to learn magic. I lost my magic. Can you teach me magic? To everybody, the Kree, anybody, any creature, alien, our society, multiverse that has magic, he travels to. And that would be interesting if they're going with that concept that he loses his magic because of Wanda. That would also lead into a lot of multiverses, which is what I think is going to be a repercussion in Spider-Man. I think Spider-Verse is going to be a direct, side effect of WandaVision. So it's interesting how to tie all these things in. And then, like I said, I know they have a plan. They always have a plan. I like most of all of the MCU's plans, except I really wish they had used Warlock, because Adam Warlock in Endgame would have been epic. They teased it. It never happened. I've said this in other reviews. If you follow my friend Blur Without Fear, you know that I've said it in his reviews. I have always been upset that Warlock was not in Endgame, but it is what it is. We do not speak of those movies. How dare you? I'm sorry, Jedi. I apologize. I mean, production value wise, they weren't crap. I mean, the actors weren't terrible. I'm sorry. I won't mention it again. Elizabeth and Paul are amazing together. Yes, Regina, they are. They are absolutely a trillion times. The chemistry between Elizabeth and Paul in WandaVision, I mean, they really look like a couple who are in love but are having real issues together. Like, Paul looks like he wants to divorce Wanda right now. Like, I'm really excited for Friday's episode because it's getting real. It is getting real. And what happened, if you have not seen WandaVision, I don't want to talk about it in here because that's what my other videos are for, because I don't want to spoil anything. But I will say the poop got real last Friday. So I think we're down to 3 episodes now. So I am extremely, extremely excited for everything that happens from Friday on, because we are down to our last 3 episodes. And I have so many theories, but I will say this is not a spoiler. I am glad to see Jimmy Woo kicking ass because of who he is in the comics. And I'm really hoping we get the Atlas Foundation. If we get the Atlas Foundation, I will be effing over the moon, because that means we're getting Silk and we're getting a bunch of other cool characters like Wave and Arrow and a lot of characters that we would not normally see. So I would be extremely happy if that happens. So yeah, let's just be throwing that out there. Again, I'm sorry my Nancy Drew video is turning into comic book stuff. It normally does. That or Charmed or sci-fi. But it is worth talking about. But do you guys have anything that you want to talk about in terms of Nancy Drew on season 2? Like, do you have any questions? Do you have any comments, concerns? You think somebody is going to die? I don't think anybody in the main cast is going to die. I don't know. I'm going to sit here and hydrate for a sec. See if anybody thinks anyone's going to die. If you're wondering why I have this big bottle of water, it's because it snowed a lot for the last 3 days. And I'm afraid there's no water left in the store. I'm not exaggerating, actually. There's no water left in the store. And where I live, we usually have pretty good drinking water, but the water keeps going off because the pipes are freezing. So this is my lifeline now. We all have one in our house. We're making it stretch like we're in the desert. Anyway. So I really want to know, though, do you guys think that anybody in the series is going to die tonight? Because tonight I feel, and I may be wrong, I haven't looked at next week's episode description, but I kind of feel like this is the last ditch effort to save themselves from Magleka. And I don't know. I love the banter between Carson, Ryan, and Ace last week. Hey, Tara, welcome. Yes. I love not only the banter, I love that. So like, it would be really hard for me. Like, I'll give you an example. My spouse is Korean American. We watch a lot of Korean dramas, and I'm always astounded by these dramas where people do really horrible things to each other and that affect them for such a long period of time in their lives, but they act like it's not a big deal. And what I mean by that is like, you know, somebody could have like run over somebody's sister. And like for like 10 years, their other sibling was like traumatized. But then that sibling falls in love with the person that, you know, killed their sister. And they have like a couple of episodes where they're like, oh, I cry. You did this to my family, blah, blah, blah. But then like the third episode, they're like, all good. And I'm like, and that's kind of what I feel like happened or potentially could have happened in Nancy, but it didn't. And I was so happy that there are repercussions to this, that Carson had to move out of the house, that Nancy is like, I don't want to talk to you. But at the same time, she's opened herself up to the possibility of having two dads. I mean, she hasn't officially said this yet, because right now, as far as Nancy's concerned, she didn't have a family. She's like, I don't have a dad. I don't have moms. I'm my own person. So I think it's going to be interesting. Let's see. And then the Carson Ride and Ace car ride was hilarious, by the way, especially the coffee. That was really funny. Oh my God, Etienne is getting her drink on. Watch out. Yes. My non-BPA water. I wish I could drink alcohol. I'm allergic to it. It's really sad. I have non-alcoholic wine. It tastes like crap. So there's one that tastes good, but we'll get into that some other time. It's too early for a death, in my opinion. I agree. And it's kind of hard to kill off one of the main characters, but it's not like they haven't done it. They've done it a lot, actually. So, but I don't really foresee any of the Scooby Drew crew going anywhere anytime soon. I didn't know George has 2 death warnings, but I don't see her dying. Yeah, so the one is when I think she kicked the bucket, the blood bucket or whatever. Oh no, she kicked the bucket and instead of water there was blood that was like leaking down the porch, and apparently there's some kind of curse. If you see that, then you're going to die. But you know, nothing has happened to her so far. But I mean, with the Igleka, she's like drowning in the car with Nick, or the truck with Nick. Do I think that's going to happen? No, but I do find it interesting that every time they try to do something to get rid of the object of their death, it just ends up coming back by fate. Like, you know, the tow truck guy bringing the truck back saying, you know, I don't have time for this. You can take your crap back, you know. If he really wanted to keep his truck and he wasn't, you know, the Gleka wasn't trying to kill him, that truck would have been gone, you know, or like, you know, Ace trying to cover up the hook with the wraps and then it just falling off of the hooks in the freezer. I mean, 9 times out of 10, even if they took the hooks out of the freezer, they would just be back up the next day. So it's interesting. I just wonder what makes them go, like, if you've already seen your death, what makes you put yourself in a position to be in there with the hooks? Why would you be in the truck on the last day when you know you're going to die? Does she just teleport you there? Are you compelled to go to these places that you're going to die? It's really interesting. And Nancy falling off the same cliff as her bio mom is very interesting too. So like all that stuff is crazy. Hopefully if Bess gets, because it looked like in the trailer that they were getting ready to face her demise, and it looked like Bess was getting ready to be set on fire. I'm hoping that Liza Beth actually, you know, saves her. I need Liza Beth and her to work out. I need them to have, and if they don't, I need them to have better closure than what happened in last week's episode, because that was just crap. Fate, that could be. I think that fate is very powerful, but again, they live in a supernatural town, and a town built by basically the spirit of the woman that's trying to kill them. Because so I don't know. Why did Odette break the debut box? I think she broke it because she knew what it stood for. So in my opinion, if you have the choice of getting your objects in your old life back where you were weak and were killed by these two men who just wanted your money versus being a powerful creature of vengeance, I will say I don't think it was Odette that broke that box. I think it was the Agleka that broke the box. I think she is so mad and pissed off that this is happening. And let's be clear, Nancy is a Hudson and Bess is a Marvin. These are the two families that she despises the most because of what they, their, patriarchs did to her, just drowned her, like shaved her head and drowned her ass. It's like, of course she's pissed. So I would break the box too. I'm like, no, you're not getting out of this. You're dying. I'm like, thanks for showing me my stuff. Not enough. So I think what would be interesting to me, and I don't know if they thought this, what if they have to like dig up the bones of Captain Marvin and Reverend Hudson and give the bones to her? Would that be penance? Because then she's basically taking Captain Marvin and Reverend Hudson into the sea with her. I feel like that may be how they could break the curse. I don't know if that's what they're going to do, but I feel like that would be how they would break that curse. That's how I would write it. I would write it that the only retribution is to get her killers, or basically bring her killers. And it would be cool too, instead of her just taking the bones, you actually see their spirits being dragged. Her just taking both of them into the water would be very, very cool. I think that would be a very cool scene to watch. And it would be a full circle. Like she'd feel redeemed. I know my daughter, when she was looking at it, thought it would be cool if both families went bankrupt. Like all the money just left. Like, because it was really Odette's money. The Hudsons and, the Marvins were nothing without that money. So it's interesting that these two families are so evil because, this is a strand that started with their original great-great-great-grandfather who murdered for the money to begin with. So it would be interesting. But I think that I really like the idea of them finding their bones, digging them up, and giving, or even if now it would be hard if they were ashes, but even still, I feel like just in some way, her being able to get revenge on her original killers would save them. And she would see them helping her as payment in full for the toll. That's the way I would write it. So anything else that happens that's not as powerful or as cool as that, I'm going to think is just stupid. I'm like, that's dumb. You could have done that in the beginning, but I really think that means more of a challenge for them to actually give the bones. And it just seems like it's pointing to that too. Cause like she did initially try to take Lucy Sable's bones, but they were the wrong bones because Lucy Sable didn't do anything to her. She was a victim. So I feel like if they had gone and said, hey, here's Captain Marvin and here's Reverend Hudson's bones. Yeah, they'd be like, paid in full. Like, got this. Heck, they wouldn't even need the box. She just would have been like, all right, peace out, going home. Live your life. So, but I don't know if that's what's going to happen. I really don't. I am excited though. I am very excited for what's going to happen tonight. I think I'm on Central Standard Time. So, I think it comes on at 7 here. Got at least, let's see here, 2.5 hours before the show. I will be doing a review on it. This was a catch up because I wanted to make sure that I got some of the points out and we talked about some of the stuff on the show before the reveal happened. So if you want to know my overall theory, you just heard it. What I think is going to save them is they're going to sacrifice the bones of the original murderers of Odette. And that's how they're going to pay in full. They're going to say, hey, we offer your killers to you. Please don't kill us. And then if that doesn't work, just like get an old TV and a VCR and put the video of the girl from The Ring on and then tell her 7 days. I'm like, that would be funny. But yeah, I don't know. I think every scene has been really funny on top of the impending. I love that it's not just like this heavy impending doom type scenario. Yes, it's a thing. Everybody's feeling it. Like George has been losing her mind. She even was trying to train her sister into taking over the claw so she can take care of her younger siblings. It was a thing. But I do love how many hilarious scenes we keep getting in the series. They're making it light and serious, and that is very hard to do with material like this. So I am very, very happy that they are pulling that off. But yeah, I was just overall, I mean, it's good to have the story of Horseshoe Bay. We know the origins now. Horseshoe Bay is a horrible place because it was basically founded by two really sociopathic men who killed a woman for her money and used her money to basically found this entire town where they basically run it with fear and murder. So yeah, Horseshoe Bay. But yeah, let's see here. I'm going to go through a few more things because I want to see if I missed anything. I try to take very good notes, guys, because so much stuff. Like, okay, let's talk about Bess again and her horror stuff. How is it that the scariest person, the person that gets scared of everything on the Nancy Drew team, is a horror fan? Like, she reads horror novels. I'm like, why? like, why would you do that to yourself? Or is that why she's scared? Because she reads so many of those horror books, she's seen every way to die. And so now she's just paranoid. I don't know. I just thought that was interesting that she loves to read horror, books and novels. And her favorite, writer just happens to be AJ. That was funny to me. So talk about out of character. I mean, if you would have told me at all last season that Bess was a horror, buff, I would have told you were crazy. I love horror movies. Now, to be fair, let me not be a hypocrite. I love zombie movies, but I don't like watching cannibal movies. They freak me out. That's hypocritical. Because there's really not a lot of difference between a zombie eating you and a cannibal, other than that they're alive and that they're consciously doing it, and zombies have no minds. But the act is still the same. So creepy. I don't know. I know she was killed for her money, but did Marvin and Hudson kill Odette because she was lesbian too? They made it seem like they didn't approve of her lifestyle. I guess Reverend Hudson probably did, but I think Marvin talked him into it. But so it made, okay, so the way it made it seem to me is that they met her on the boat because, it takes a long time to get from France to America. And they kind of realized she was rich and alone on this boat. And they were like, hey, this is a money pot. They didn't see her as a person. They saw her as a walking money sack. So it was easy for them to plan to kill her, forge a marriage certificate, get rid of the body, and lie and say that she had consumption because my mother was born and raised in Scotland in like 1950. And she got tuberculosis, I think, when she was 4 or 5, from delivering groceries to her next door neighbor. She was elderly and she had TB and nobody knew it. So my mother, they took her from her home, because they did this back in those times. They took her to like these like church monasteries where they had all these beds, and she was there for over a month. So it's very easy to believe that back in those days, prior to the 19th century, that if you had consumption, which they didn't realize it was tuberculosis, they didn't have a name for it then, that, it could contaminate everybody on the ship. So then you just toss the body overseas and nobody would think anything about it. There was no DNA, no fingerprints, none of that stuff back then. It was a lot easier to get away with murder. So murdering her for her money and then forging the marriage certificate saying, hey, we've been on this boat together from France for 2 months. We fell in love. It's not out of the ordinary. People used to get arranged marriages and married like that back in those days anyway. Very believable. I think it probably disgusted them if they knew. I didn't know. I guess they did know because Agnes, the second wife, was talking about she was writing love letters to, her, basically her love in London. So that kind of makes sense that if they did discover those letters, that also told Captain Marvin that there was no way he could woo her to marry him. So murder was like the next step. So I don't think they necessarily killed her because she was a lesbian. I think that basically made her death more inevitable because they could not, get her to be attracted to one of them and marry them, basically. So it's sad. That whole situation is so messed up. I get why she's pissed. I mean, it's sad for all the people that ask her for stuff, but I guess technically, why are you asking her for anything? I mean, you know what the toll is. Stop. So yeah, it's all crazy to me. Like, all of this is crazy. But yeah, I don't know. There's so many things going on in this series. Like, there's so much potential, guys. Like, but we all know that Nancy especially is not going to die because it's called Nancy Drew, so she can't die. And number two, because she's going to start a relationship with, Gil. And you can't start a relationship with Gil if you're not alive to do it. So it's going to be a thing. It is going to be a thing. But yeah, so far we've gotten to meet Nick's mom. We now know that Ace and his father are Jewish and celebrate Jewish holidays. We have a lot of insight to a lot of the characters now that we didn't have, I guess, a bigger grasp on in season one, because we knew a lot about Nancy, but there was so much like drama with the ghosts and Lucy Sable's death and who did it and all that we never really got to see who these people actually are outside of Nancy's drama, if that makes sense. So I do love that we're starting to see that. We're starting to see that. And yeah, for good or bad, these people are being fleshed out. And now we get to see all of the results of that in this season. And it looks cool. It does. It looks cool. But again, we'll see after tonight. We'll see what happens. We'll see how they the writers navigate their way around the Aglaika. I tell you guys, if we still have the Aglaika next week, I'm going to be mad. Like, we need to resolve this tonight because this is it. This is episode 5 of this season. We need to get our Aglaika out of our system and move into more of the meaty stuff, because that's where we need to be. We need to stop talking about the Aglaika. We need to make Odette happy, save these kids' lives, and then move on. And Nancy has to promise to never take anybody's damn talisman ever again, because they may be killed, because that's crazy. Like, don't do things like that. That is selfish, bad. That's being a Hudson. So yeah. But yeah, we've been over an hour, guys. That's pretty much all I have. If you have any other insights before the show, starts, please leave them in the comments below, because who knows, you may be right. And again, I will be reviewing this episode. I will try and get up by Friday, maybe tomorrow. I sometimes try to do them the same evening. That's why with my job, it's been hard. Plus, I'm in a very intense acting class, and our scene studies and our showcase are coming up through Zoom. It's all Zoom, so we're being safe. But I have a lot of lines to learn. So, and maybe I'll be able to put one of my videos up for you guys to see, because I actually have a monologue from a Batman animated film, and it's the Joker's monologue called "Why Aren't You Laughing?" So we're going to see. Hi, Ito. But yeah, so I will get that up. Again, if you were not here at the beginning of this live stream, Black Lightning review will be coming up. I will try and get it today or tomorrow. More likely tomorrow morning, but I will try for tonight. And also, I may be doing a Charmed, more than likely, season 3, episode 3, which technically is, 2 premiere or whatever, not premiere, finale of saying goodbye to season 2 of Charmed with the Turnout, because me and the Turnout have so much fun doing that. So, guys, we still have so much to talk about with Charm. So we will be having that live. It'll be a live stream. Probably, I'm going to say Thursday, which is tomorrow. So I get off work at 4:30 Central Standard Time. So it'll probably be around 6 p.m. Central Standard Time for me, because he's about 2 hours behind. So 4 for him. So we'll see if we can make that happen. If not, it'll be on Friday. But I will post in the community. So please check the community post, because that's where I put everything. Also, if you guys know what you want me to do, somebody asked me to do a Patreon. I'm probably doing memberships. They're going to be very cheap, but I don't know what you guys want. I'm really racking my brain. Somebody said they wanted Charm content, which is fine, but I need to know other stuff. Comic book content. You want more exclusive reviews? What do you want? Let me know so I can be your membership slave. So please go to the community post tab and please let me know on that board. But yeah, that is where we are. If you're in an area where it's snowing hard, be careful, because the roads out there are treacherous. And where I live, people act like they haven't seen snow before. So be careful out there. And if you can, stay safe indoors, because I know a lot of people are losing power and stuff. If you're in here, I'm pretty confident that you have power. But again, be very careful, because it is very, very cold. This weather is crazy. We haven't had weather like this in over a decade. So this is all new for my area. So I can imagine in other areas how it is. So be safe. Have a good rest of your day. And again, please leave comments on what you think is going to happen tonight, because we only have a few hours and I'm excited. So hope you guys are excited too. And I will hopefully see you guys on the next live stream, potentially tomorrow for Charmed. All right, guys. Thanks. Have a good day. Bye.